So, the A Song of Ice and Fire prologue. We get introduced to Garrett, Waymar and Will. Will is our POV character and observes the dispute between the other two while ranging north of the wall. Garrett is old and experienced, while Waymar is young and arrogant. Many details point to him feeling more entitled and superior to the others based on his noble status. We also find that Will is dismissed when he claims that he found the dead bodies of the wildlings that they have been tracking, and Waymar refuses to turn back until he sees for himself. Garrett, however, is apprehensive as the cold wind makes the trees appear alive to him, and it has felt like they have been watched the entire day. He notes that they should head back as snow will slow their travels, and even mentions ice storms, which makes me question what exactly is an ice storm. Is that like a hailstorm? And it is noted that all of this takes place about 8 or 9 days riding on horseback from the wall, going north, northwest and then north again in the haunted forest. Now, as far as I can believe, the wildlings that they are tracking were not killed by the others, as we see that it is noted that they are all lying dead, and even the scout up in the ironwood tree is dead, which is important as we find that the ironwoods are in some way important in that they appear to be opposite to the weirwood magic, and so the others can't attack the Far Eyes if they are up in the ironwood tree. So it seems likely that they did in actual fact die from exposure and hypothermia, as it is implied later that they are not actually killed by blades, as there would be blood all around them, which is never mentioned and would be an important detail to the characters. We also find that when they get to where the bodies were, there are no bodies, but they would have noted if there was blood pools where the bodies had been. Interestingly enough, also their weapons have been left behind. In particular, an axe is mentioned, and so these are items that would have been important to them and would not have merely been left behind. And Garrett provides backup evidence to support this fact, as he gives tales of hypothermia and frostbite and how people sink into a warm sleep as the condition does. People don't realise that they are dying from the cold because they feel warm. Now, the group dismount at an ironwood tree where they rein their horses, and Garrett stays with the horses and coincidentally is the only one of the three to survive this chapter, implying again perhaps the ironwood is an important detail and somehow shielded him from the magical beings. Waymar again refuses Garrett's advice and knowledge on the fact that wielding a sword in the close encounter of the trees is actually a detriment to him and that he should in fact be wielding a knife. They then go on to have a dispute over lighting a fire, as notably they say that the enemies will be able to see the fires, notably the wildlings that they believe they are still tracking. However, Garrett makes note, based on the mysterious circumstances here, that it is much more likely the fire will keep them safe, as it is notable to keep away bears, direwolves and other things. And as we come to learn in the stories, fire appears to be very useful against wights, and so it's possible that it's the wights that are being referred to here, as we do get the indication based on the TV show that fire is not effective against the others, but is effective against the resurrected zombie husks. And so we come to Waymar's encounter with the others. A great sentinel tree oversees the clearing, which Will climbs up to observe what happens. Now, the sentinel, based on the theory video that I've made, is an important detail, as sentinels are integral to the lore of the wall, and so it's no coincidence here that the word sentinel is in place and when the others are nearby. This sentinel tree, however, appears to be a pine tree, as it is green-grey and has sap and needles coming from it. Now, Waymar appears to be in some way embodying Azor Ahai. As we see here, he stands on the ridge with his longsword in his hand, and the others then show up to face him. So this may be some form of indication to us of what the actual events in the histories were. The others appear from the woods and are described as pale shapes that glide through the woods. Notably, they are not leaving footprints, they are not stepping, they are not making noise, and they are even described as white shadows in the darkness, which I think lends credence to the fact that they are potentially believed to be some form of shadow baby magic. They are described as tall, gaunt, and their flesh is like milk, their armour appearing to be like a mirror reflecting all around them. Their swords are super thin and translucent and glow in the light of the moon, and we do find that on this night it is noted that it is a half moon, which is important as we go through the events of the entire book series, as the phases of the moon can actually be used very clearly to indicate the passage of time. The final detail we get about the others is the fact that they have deep blue icy eyes. Now, Waymar is terrified at the sight of these beings and stands aggressively in the face of them and raises his sword. And at this point, the other pauses to stare at it, which shows us that the other, up until this point, did not seem to have any interest in fighting Waymar. But now that he has challenged it, it appears that it is now taking notice. And at this point, more others appear to join it. However, they stand back and observe as this one accepts the challenge and duels, much like a knight would. We find that when it eventually manages to wound Waymar, it speaks in a strange language which Will describes as being seen in a mocking tone. And then eventually the sword that Will is wielding shatters, which appears to only have happened as he weakens. So it's possible that the repeated strikes of the freezing cold other sword gradually weakens the blade until the frost damages it enough to break it, as high-pitched shrieking tones occur whenever the blades clash. Eventually, the sword shatters, and the shards scatter and hit Waymar in his eye. The others then move forward at this sign that he has been defeated, and then butcher him silently. However, they are also described by Will as cackling or laughing after the fact. After waiting for ages until the others leave, Will climbs back down and approaches the body of Waymar, only for it to rise again with a single blue eye, and curiously enough, Waymar strokes his cheek before choking him to death. Now this is an interesting detail, as why does he stroke his cheek like this? And also the fact that he rises again with one blue eye is curious, as we have seen in other areas of A Song of Ice and Fire that having blue eyes is considered a dangerous thing, and that usually associates that character with death, as we see the character of Aemon Targaryen, for example, has a single blue sapphire eye and is well known for his ability to cause death. So I think that the prologue here may actually have some significance towards the Azor Ahai mythos from the very beginning, as Waymar is of House Royce, and House Royce are an extremely ancient house based on their motto of remembrance and their use of runic symbols dating all the way back to the first colonizations of Westeros. And curiously enough, Waymar is described as having grey eyes, and if you look at my Gemstone Emperor theory, the grey eyes are symbolic of the blood of the first people who would later go on to become the blood of Valyria. So this is the even more ancient version of that blood, and so it's possible that these were the ancient enemy of the others in the Long Night. It makes sense that the others take note of Waymar and challenge him. He strikes the figure of Azor Ahai. He has the blood lineage, and he stands valiantly with his sword raised, so they see this as a mockery and a challenge, hence why they laugh at him afterwards. And the final note I will make on the prologue is the fact that it is mentioned in the prologue by the characters that dead men sing no songs, which is interesting as the series is called A Song of Ice and Fire. What exactly is the relevance here of dead men not being able to sing songs in a story where songs are very much important as they are literally in the title?